Greetings, free thinkers. Welcome to the Hoggcast. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing fine. I certainly am. Okay, what do we have for you on today's episode? We have for you one clip to watch, which comes from the article. We'll go over the article as well. The clip's quite long. We'll get into that. It's based in San Francisco, California. Things are reaching ahead. It's amazing how much people, a town, a city, a society, will take. It's amazing how much they will just keep going for the sake of carrying on until it reaches a point where you just cannot keep going anymore. So you've got big retailers in San Francisco like Target, Walgreens, etc. They are making specific changes to San Francisco and San Francisco only, although they have other huge issues with criminals, people just walking in and taking whatever they want from the shop with no fear of repercussions at all. You've seen it before, you're going to see it again in a minute. That's all over the place, in specifically Democrat cities, of course. However, San Francisco takes the biscuit. They've gone one further. It's reached a point now where they can't ignore it. As much as they want to, as much as they hate to give those Republicans a win or whatever it is, they can't just ignore it anymore. So we'll get into the video now. We have a clip to watch which goes over what I've just explained, and we'll stop it intermittently to make the points I need to make, and then we'll after we've watched the clip, we'll go through the article and see what's happening in good old sunny San Francisco. So we'll get into it now. If you haven't yet though, please like the video, subscribe to the Hoggcast, hit the notification bell and share the video around social media and the likes. Also have a membership scheme which you can join. There is a join button next to the sub button. I have 8 amazing beautiful members who honour and humble me that they support the Hoggcast in our quiet little corner of the internet, because I am shadow banned and deboosted because we are conservative commentators. Okay, let's go. Okay, the clip.
Tony Bennett left his heart, and while we love it, we know it has problems too.
And tonight we're focused on one of those problems, talking about retail theft. You've seen it in videos like this, an accused serial shoplifter grabbing and going at Walgreens. The California retailers...
Sorry to interrupt so quickly. It's his job. You see the guy there? It's his job to do something. That's what he gets paid for, right? Underpaid or not, that's your job. Do you see how this Democrat thing, this left-wing thing, it's not just the USA, it's here in Britain, it's in Australia, Canada, France, all over, the West, specifically the West. Nobody does their job anymore if you're left-wing. If you're right-wing, if you're conservative, you have the weight of the world on your shoulders. You need to be fully competent all the time to justify your own existence. Left-wing people in left-wing states and cities, they don't need to do that. Personified here, right at the top, from the Pelosi's and the Newsoms, right down to store security guards. This example that the so-called leaders are setting is starting to filter its way down society to the point where nobody gives a damn anymore. That's dangerous.
Association found that 3 cities in our state are among the top 10 in the country when it comes to organized retail crime: Los Angeles, Sacramento, and San Francisco. Well, already we are seeing the negative impact, stores in the city permanently shutting down or closing early. But our focus is on building a better...
Yeah, he's going to build a better Bay. He's going to build back better. They'll never part from the Democrats, ever. It doesn't matter what a Democrat could go around to every door, and then when the Democrat family open the door, the Democrat candidate could just go goodbye, and they'd still vote for him. Yeah, they'd still vote for him. I was going to make a point, but I completely forgot what I was going to make. Oh yeah, that's it. The people that... This is the thing as well, because they will complain that there's no stores left in the area. Well, we've got no stores left. Everywhere's shut down. It's those horrible, greedy capitalists. Why are Walmart doing this? Why are Target doing this? They need to reopen their shop in our communities. That's what they'll say. No understanding of why they're leaving in the first place. No understanding of why it's stopped. Yeah?
Bay Area. It's why we have team coverage on the topic tonight, including ABC 7 News insider Phil Mateer. We'll get to him, but first let's hear from ABC 7 News reporter Leanne Melendez. She's in the newsroom with how the city government is handling this crisis. Leanne.
Well, Dan, San Francisco is fifth on that list, yet it is the only city where these retail stores are actually making changes because of this organized retail crime. Now, the mayor has said that cutting hours and closing stores is not the solution and that there has to be an accountability component to all of this.
Target has now acknowledged that San Francisco is the only city in America where they have decided to close some stores early because of the escalating retail crime. For more than a month, we've been experiencing a significant and alarming rise in theft and security incidents at our San Francisco stores, similar to reports from other retailers in the area.
Target isn't the only retail store in San Francisco to make changes because of the continuous shoplifting. After 10 p.m., this 7-Eleven in the financial district does only business through this metal door, window.
And if there's anyone out there who's seen this, probably not on my channel, but let's say if they live in the Bay Area and let's say they are involved in these shoplifting events, they think they're funny, you know, maybe they used to, but then they've grown up and they thought, oh, do you know what, I'm embarrassed that I used to do that. If you have to shop at a 7-Eleven through what essentially amounts to a bank vault door, no, I hope you realise that that's your fault. People like you. You did that. Democrats, you did that. So, you see no correlation in your own culture, your own political party, the people you vote blue no matter who for, and the state that you're currently in. And by state, I don't mean like California, New York, or whatever. I mean physical state. Yeah? She said about accountability. From who? The store owners? Is that where you're going? Are you going to say that it's the store owner's fault? You notice how they always blame everything else on the periphery of the issue. And leftists do this with everything. They look to blame someone or something on the periphery of the subject matter. So they don't blame the shoplifter, which is in the centre. They blame the shop. Why are you shutting down so early? That's not the answer. We need accountability. Arrest the people doing it. Hold the people who are doing it accountable. I guess that's too much. You're thinking like a Republican then. I think that's how they rationalise it.
But first, I have to press this button to let them know that I'm outside.
This window is installed like 2 or 3 months ago. Because it was not safe, sometime they broke the glass of the door.
Walgreens has already closed several stores for the same reason, and security guards like Kevin Greathouse are told not to physically engage with those shoplifting.
And it's going to be lawsuits. Obviously, they don't want ourselves or anybody else to get injured while we're out here attempting to make these apprehensions.
But you're not attempting to make any apprehensions. You're just standing there with your phone. You see, this is the thing, right? If a society, especially in these Democrat-run states and cities like San Francisco, LA and the like, if it's reached culture, the culture has degenerated to the point where people are just acting completely lawlessly, you need to adapt to that. You're trying to keep a 1980s, 1970s vibe, attitude of, you know, it's this and that, you know, we're just trying to do our job. Your job's changed. Now, I would say yes, you do need to pay these people more. However, you need to equip them and you need to give them the legal backing. They need to know that they've got the legal backing to physically apprehend those committing the crimes. Because you know what it's like now. They're just like, they're underpaid and they think to themselves, oh, it's not worth the hassle, because when you intervene, a lot of the time, the criminal will be treated as the criminal. That's what I'm trying to say. And people don't want that. You know, even Democrats want an easy life, I think. Too easy, though. They want it too easy.
and leave that to law enforcement.
Is that frustrating for you?
Very.
He carries with him a handgun, a taser, and pepper spray. But thankfully, he's never had to use them. On the other hand, he says people shoplifting have, at times, threatened him with a knife.
I don't have any intention.
So, wouldn't that be grounds for using it if someone threatened you with a knife? I mean, what? I should imagine it's like a deterrent thing, isn't it? Where you stand there with the gun and the taser and all of that stuff. But he said himself he's not prepared to use it, and then he immediately says that he's been threatened with a knife. If the culture's changed to the point where that is happening, and this is a daily occurrence, you're going to have to adapt. I'm sorry, but you're going to have to adapt to it. If the situation is now more dangerous, you need to become more resilient. Because just standing by watching it with a film, filming it with a camera, hey, guess what? It's not just us that notice, yeah? They notice too.
Intention of getting stabbed for $60 worth of stuff.
Most of them never get caught. The man shown allegedly shoplifting and leaving with a bag full of goods on...
The man shown allegedly. Do you see what I mean? You're giving them... The criminal gangs who are doing this, you are giving them... You're trying to take the high road with them when they're taking the low road with you. And despite what you may have seen in fluffy Hollywood movies, if you take the high road and they take the low road, they'll get there before you do.
On a bike has been arrested.
The question is, will this person be held accountable for what they did? And that needs to be a part of the equation as well.
He won't be. Now, she's right when she says that needs to be a part of the equation too. This just goes to show you the scale of the problem, because there are so many links in the chain that were once fully functional conservative links that are now for the most part leftist links, where if you even arrest him, the first link in the chain is to arrest the person, then you have to charge him, etc, etc. Then, and we've seen what district attorneys could be like in these liberal run areas. So the police could, even though the police are hated and they're trying to do all of the work, they could do all of that work, hand it over to the DA for him to just toss it out, which they do. They do it all the time. You know this, you don't need me to tell you this. And you see what I mean? And even if they don't toss it out, you might get a liberal judge, a liberal jury. So you have all of these links in the chain, and it only takes one of them to snap for the criminal to get off scot-free. That is why so many of them do get off scot-free, because of all these leftist links in the chain.
As well.
That's where Supervisor Asha Safai has stepped in. He's asked both the police department and the district attorney's office to come up with a coordinated plan to reduce the organized retail crime and find out why San Francisco is apparently targeted more than anywhere else.
This is people that are recruited, organized, and are reselling these goods, and San Francisco's hurting for it.
Oh yeah, they sell them out in the street. And more than that, they sell. I've seen the videos of stalls with fake IDs and all kinds of stuff. If they wanted, the police could go down there and round them all up. But they won't do it because it's too much hassle. They'll get too much political blowback, etc, etc. So the whole downtown area is just allowed to rot. Because letting it rot is easier than rounding them all up. That's what policing has become. On both sides of the pond, yeah?
He's given police and the DA's office a week to come up with an answer.
So Proposition 47 says shoplifting merchandise valued at $950 or less is a misdemeanor. We know that by now. What Supervisor Safai is talking to law enforcement and the DA's office about is possibly aggregating charges. So, for example, if one person hits several stores in a day, they would be slapped instead with a felony. But as we all know, Dan, it's very hard to catch them in the act.
Yeah.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Listen, these guys aren't sneaky thieves. This is what should show. This is what should tell you there is something deeply wrong These aren't people who are going in with magic bags, so them little bags with the tin foil lined in the side. These aren't people who try and lurking in the shadows, going in at quiet times, or when it's like full up and they're busy. These are people strolling in many cases, like you saw there, with a bicycle. If you work in a shop, if you own a shop, and someone comes in with a hood up in the middle of the day and they're on a bicycle, they're riding a bicycle in your shop, you should immediately know there's something wrong. So it's not hard to apprehend them. What there is a lack of will to apprehend them. They're doing it in your face every day. They're hitting multiple stores. If you actually worked together and coordinated, you'd probably be able to pick them up on the CCTV cameras as they entered the downtown areas. You'd be able to pick them up. So that's just a ludicrous statement.
And you can't charge them if you can't catch them. Mm-hmm. All right, Leanne. Let's bring in ABC 7 News insider Phil Mateer, who has talked about this extensively. Phil, you know, it's one of these problems that is affecting everyone in this city in one way or another, and retailers have just had enough. What are authorities saying needs to be done to stop this or to get a handle on it?
Well, what they're saying and what they're doing is two different things. What they're saying is that we need a coordinated effort.
Sounds just like any Democrat I've ever heard of.
Between the police, the district attorney, the judges. What the mayor says is we need to hold people accountable. But Dan, you have to understand that we as a state and we as a Bay Area have repeatedly gone to the polls and said what we want to do is lessen the penalties for non-violent crimes. We don't want non-violent offenders going to jail.
So live with it, right? You're making our points for us. Accept the store closures. Accept your local pharmacy closing. Accept prices going through the roof. Accept it all, because you said yourself that you have voted repeatedly to make things, in a roundabout way, you said you've voted repeatedly to make things worse. Yeah? And I stand by my statement. I do not think under any circumstances places like the San Francisco Bay and California in general would vote Republican ever, no matter what a Democrat does. And it's the same with New York, in my opinion. Washington, of course, we know that. Oregon. It just doesn't matter what they do. They will always vote blue, no matter who.
Shoplifting and this type of thing is a non-violent crime. So it doesn't carry the weight unless it's bundled together, and that takes a lot of effort. And for example, it's estimated that possibly 85% of the thefts are done by organized gangs. But Leanne, you've been talking with officials. How many people are on the organized crime task force in San Francisco's PD?
Right. So ready for this one, Phil? One person. And you would think that the San Francisco Police Department would have
That goes to that, more than anything else, sums up Democrat incompetence. They're seeing record-breaking shoplifting and organized crime actions targeting retailers. And it was already bad before it was record breaking. They were the ones who broke the record before. And they've got one man. One. Who probably doesn't do anything, to be perfectly honest.
Room full of investigators to deal with this issue, which happens to be one of the most important ones here in San Francisco, that not only affects local people, but it also affects tourists. You know, when a tourist witnesses something like this, what do you think they're going to do when they go back home? They're going to tell their neighbor, they're going to tell their cousin.
Yes, you're right. That's exactly why the Paris tourist industry has collapsed. When I was young, everyone spoke about going to Paris. Trust me, you do not want to go to Paris now. It is a hellhole, a third world hellhole, a bit like San Francisco. But I will premise that by saying San Francisco's bad, but it is nowhere near as bad as Paris. I cannot put into what you'll have to go and see it yourself. The place is trashed, and I mean trashed, and I really mean it. You have to go and see it for yourself.
cousins, their relatives, and that's not good for San Francisco. And by the way, that person who's head of that department is called the ORC, the Organized Retail Crime Department. Her name is Jennifer Marino, and we asked for an interview today, and SFPD said not at this moment.
Really?
What a shock. So the mayor says it's all about accountability. The basic entry for accountability is coming on to, for example, this Bay Area local news show and explaining to the people in your community, the Bay Area, why you're doing such a poor job. But being a Democrat, that's out of the window. Not an option.
Wow. And, you know, Leanne, speaking of, you know, word of mouth, tourists come, have bad experience. They tell you their family, their friends about it. On Midday Live today, we asked, have crime issues kept you from visiting or exploring San Francisco? And 2/3 of our viewers voted yes. Those are people who are sort of already in the area. And then you have people out of the area thinking, oh, this is a horrible place. I don't want to go there. I mean, Phil, what's it going to take to show people that San Francisco is a place to go? I mean, as if the pandemic wasn't bad enough for San Francisco tourism.
That is the big question, and one that we're going to see coming out of this pandemic.
I could answer that question for you, but you wouldn't like it because you Democrats, you leftists, you have brushed all of the problems under the carpet to such an extent over the years that problem under the carpet is now a mountain under the carpet. And you aren't equipped to deal with it. I know that, and deep down you know that, yeah, because to deal with such a problem on such a scale would involve you as a Democrat, first of all, admitting fault, which is nigh on impossible, and second, admitting that your policies have led to this problem. Again, that's not going to happen with the Democrats, so it will be doubling down, doubling down, doubling down. Yeah, I think we'll leave it there. Okay, so I was going to read through the article, but the article just covers everything we spoke about in the video, so I will leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.